Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. I was previously appointed as chair earlier this morning. This meeting is being broadcast live, recorded, and will be made available on the Council's YouTube channel. The agenda is available on the Council's website by following the links to Your Council, then Council Meetings Calendar, and you'll find this meeting on today's date. The quorum for this meeting is 3 members, and all will need to be present at all times. If any subcommittee member or the legal advisor loses connection, we will pause to allow them to rejoin as soon as possible. To reduce feedback, could everyone mute their microphones when not speaking? After the subcommittee has heard the submission, I will ask if members of the council have any questions on the submission. Members can also indicate they wish to speak by using the chat function. Please do not use the chat function to ask questions of officers or members, and remember that all meeting participants on the video call will be able to see what has been entered into the chat. Please also keep mobile phones in silent mode or switched off during the meeting. I'm Councillor Jackie Davis, and I'll introduce the other participants in the meeting. We have with us this morning Councillor Andrew Sillett, Councillor Ollie Waring, Guy Bishop, the legal advisor, Hannah Smith, our licensing officer, Brendan Herbert on behalf of the applicant, Saventa Events Limited, and Alice Aubrey, the Democratic Services Officer. I previously asked members to declare any pecuniary interest, non-registrable interest, or other registrable interest in relation to this application. Can members confirm that they had nothing to declare?
Nothing from me.
Thank you. The parties have already been notified of the usual procedures for licensing hearings set out on pages 5 to 7 of the agenda. Paragraph 57 on page 6 of the agenda pack deals with notification of a decision following the subcommittee's deliberations. This will firstly be confirmed by email later today, and full details and reasons will follow within 5 working days. Are there any objections to proceeding on the basis of these procedures? Thank you. So we move on to the hearing itself. This is for All Saints Church Lawns, Marketplace, Kingston, KT1 1JP. It's an application for a new premises licence under the Licensing Act of 2003. Appendix B on page B1 of the agenda. I'd like to call on Hannah Smith, the licensing officer, to introduce the report on this application. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Chair. This application relating to All Saints Church Lawns, Marketplace, Kingston, KT1 1JP was made on the 1st of April 2025 by Saventa Events Limited. The application seeks a new premises licence to be used seasonally starting from the 1st of November to the 31st of January each year for the licensable activities, provision of films every day from 10 AM till 10 PM, the provision of live music every day from 10 AM till 10:30 PM, and that's to be both indoor and outdoor. The provision of recorded music every day from 10 AM till 10:30 PM, again both indoor and outdoor, and the supply of alcohol every day from 10 AM till 11 PM, and that will be both on and off the premises. Relevant pages of the application form and a plan of the premises are attached to Annex 1. The proposed hours of operation are laid out on Annex 2. I can confirm that the application has been advertised by way of public notice at the premises and within the local newspaper. This application was also made available on the council's website. I can confirm that all responsible authorities received a copy of this application. Representations were received from Trading Standards and the Noise Officer Pollution Team in relation to the protection of children from harm and the prevention of public nuisance. Following mediation, the applicant has addressed these concerns by making amendments to their operating schedule and reducing the hours of the application. These were reflected in the times I've just read out. These are shown on Annex 2 and the additional conditions on Annex 3. In light of these amendments, the concerns raised by the Trading Standards Officer and by the Pollution Noise Officer have been withdrawn. In accordance with the Council's licensing policy, 140 addresses were consulted in writing and informed that the application had been received. One valid representation was received from other parties. The representation makes references that matter to the prevention of crime and disorder and public nuisance. Copies of this objection are attached on Annex 4. A map showing the location of the premises is attached on Annex 5, with photographs on Annex 6. In considering this application, the committee is required to take into account the Secretary of State's guidance issued under the Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 and its own statement of licensing policy. Relevant paragraphs are attached on Annex 7. If the application is granted, the applicant has proposed a number of additional measures to promote the licensing objections. These measures, which could be laid out on conditions, are laid out on Annex 3. I will happily answer any questions that members may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members to Hannah? I think we will be. Oh, sorry, Councillor Sillett.
Apologies, premature hand raising there, not to Hannah.
Okay, no, I think we will save our questions for the applicant, I'm guessing. I know I will. Thank you very much, Hannah. I think that was quite clear. So I'd like to now call on the applicant's representative, Brendan Herbert, to give a summary of his application. Paragraph 47 on page 5 of the agenda pack deals with the length of time an applicant can speak. The applicant has up to 5 minutes to present his submission. Alice will advise you when you have 1 minute left and when your time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Before I start, could I just check whether the committee's had the opportunity to read the sort of the written submission that I sent in? Because if you have, I will really skim through it because I don't have a huge amount to say beyond that. Although if you've not, then I will go through it in more detail.
We have read it, but I think a quick summary and then maybe an explanation of what you actually want to.
Sorry, are you talking about the alcohol management plan or something else?
No, I sent in just a written submission just covering off the points that I was going to talk about.
The late material.
Okay, that right, fine.
Yeah. Well, I will go through it. So, as Hannah has just set out, this is an application to obtain a premises license for the provision of licensable activities for events to take place at All Saints Church lawn. In particular, this is in relation to a seasonal Christmas event taking place each year from November to January in the grounds of the church. And the live event itself is from mid-November to late December. The committee will, of course, be familiar with the nature of a Christmas event, but for the avoidance of doubt, activities are sort of general commercial sales from small stalls and, of more relevance to the application, the operation of small bars selling alcohol and provision of regulated entertainment in the form of films, live and recorded music, indoors and outdoors. The applicant is a leading independent promoter of live events and entertainment across the UK for 14 years and has a particular expertise in putting on Christmas markets, which it does in both Bournemouth and in Cambridge. The site in question has previously enjoyed the benefits of a premises license when it operated as a craft market and also had a Christmas bar, which sold alcohol on and off the premises. And we are not aware of any issues which arose from that operation. Just addressing the legal considerations, there is a presumption of an application will be granted, and when as has occurred in this case, conditions have been amended following mediation with the responsible authorities. There is a single representation from a member of the public which has been made, which I'll go through in a moment. Attempts have been made to engage the representative following the closing of the consultation period, both by the applicant and by the council, and unfortunately no response has been received, and of course the representative isn't here today. Under the statutory guidance, the authority should be take its lead from the various responsible authorities, which I suggest in this case are the police and the environmental teams, given the nature of the objections from the representative. And it is of significance that no representations have come in from the police, and some queries were raised by the environmental team, which have been agreed and mediated, have resulted in the reduction of the terminal hour from 11 o'clock as applied for down to 10:30. Mr. Simpson, the Officer for Pollution Control, was concerned that the background noise levels in the area drop after 10 in the evening. So there was therefore the potential for unattenuated noise to become a nuisance, and therefore he was happy with the reduction to 10:30. There is, in the interest of balance, there have been expressions of support for the application, both from All Saints Church and from Kingston First Business Improvement District. Turning to the representations, the representative is concerned on two fronts: a risk of disturbance to neighbouring residents from amplified sound and raised voices. And I stress this point, that the representative says she's particularly concerned about this during the summer months, and I'll come to that in a moment. Previous events have led to excessive noise and inconvenience. And on the prevention of crime and disorder, the representative says outdoor entertainment could attract increased foot traffic, alcohol consumption, and congregation of people in outdoor areas, particularly at closing time, which is said has the potential to contribute to antisocial behaviour such as shouting, littering, and vandalism as attendees leave the premises. It is also said that this could lead to groups lingering, leading to late night disturbances. Just in terms of our comments on those, the reference to summer months is concerning. It's a time-limited licence from November to January inclusive, and that this detail has been overlooked or disregarded is concerning regarding the engagement level of the representative. In any event, conditions are being offered as to external sound management by specialist contractors, and the EMP will go into further details on this. Crime and disorder, certainly increased foot traffic will come to the area. That's the whole point, provide a form of entertainment for the people of the area. But given the licences for the winter months, the likelihood of attendees lingering after the term hour is minimal due to cold temperatures and darkness. And the applicant is not aware of any specific evidence linking attendees at Christmas markets with a propensity to antisocial behaviour. But there is an extensive alcohol management plan in place to ensure as far as possible that antisocial behaviour will be stopped before it escalates to nuisance levels. Just adding, we have an proven track record of successfully delivering these events across the country without any issues. Sorry, bit of a canter there, but those are the main points. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. I think there will be quite a few questions. Councillors. Councillor Sillett.
Good morning. My main worry with this is just the noise levels. Every weekday night up until 10:30, there are not a lot of residents living nearby, but there are some that live very nearby, and I just wonder if you could give me some indication, because we're talking about outdoor live music, and I'm just wondering with the amplification there. Certainly, when you get buskers just over the road in outside sort of John Lewis sort of area, just at the start of on Clarence Street, that it can be very loud and it goes on, and people can hear it in the shops all the time. And I'm just imagining something similar late at night every night.
So a couple of points there. It's planned that the external music is going to be at background level only, which is between 60 to 70 dBA. Now, this will all be dealt with in more detail in the event management plan, but obviously we are a long way away from the start, and EMP wouldn't normally be delivered until a couple of months before. The main live music will be in an inside structure. It will be louder. I'm told at between 60 to 95 dBA, but because that will be taking place in an enclosed structure, that has mitigation effects and will stop the sound bleed. Just for context, if you're not particularly familiar with sort of sound levels and attenuation, the average background street noise in London is 66 dBA. This is from research commissioned by the University of Arts in London, and the average sort of continuation of urban life is approximately 60 dBA. So we're talking, for the outside background music is very much pitched within that frequency. So it will be audible by people within the market and not beyond. There is the live music will be louder, but as it's contained in the structure, as that attenuates out, it reduces as distance goes, and it's blocked by the structure of the walls. And in addition to that, there is, of course, the applicant can control sound directions and levels by monitoring the sound from a sound desk, the orientation of the speakers and the PAs, and the external monitoring to make sure it remains within those levels.
Well, that's reassuring. I'm just this structure though is likely to be something like a marquee or something temporary, isn't it?
I don't have any instructions on that. I would imagine so, but I'd have to clarify that. But there is still it's quite a significant attenuating effect, even within a canvas marquee structure.
Okay, thank you for that.
Other questions? I have quite a few. On the noise, going back to noise for a second, do you have a noise management plan as part of your application?
Not as part of the application, but there will be one as within the event management plan.
Event management, right? Okay, so that's good. What by an event? Do you know what this means? An event from November to January. We're a bit vague about what is actually going to be happening. I was thinking it's like a Christmas markety thing, but it doesn't sound like that.
Oh, well, in effect, it is a Christmas market, but probably one with more with more entertainment to increase engagement with the attendees, which is why there's the focus on the on music being in the background. Sometimes you have Christmas markets and it's literally just sort of rows of external stalls and concessions. This is one that's designed to provide more engagement with those.
Is there a stage?
Stations. Sorry?
Is there a stage?
I would have to let me just refer to the plan.
The plan is just the square of where it will be.
There's a plan within the attached to the application, which sets everything out. I'm just going to refer to that. Don't know if it's, yes, there we are. It's on page 79 of the agenda. So I can't see a stage physically.
No, as I say, it's just
live music will naturally be played from a stage, but where that's located on the plan, I don't have instructions on that at the tip of my fingers.
I'm also wondering how showing films may increase engagement with people shopping, but I suppose that may not be a question you can answer. Can I move on to the alcohol license? When you were speaking, you talked about alcohol being drunk on and off the premises. By off the premises, did you just mean outside the tent but on the green, or did you mean actual takeaway alcohol?
Alcohol wouldn't be sold with the intention it is taken away, but as quite often happens in these events in public spaces, people there's not a hard defined boundary, and sometimes people will purchase alcohol at the event in plastic glasses or commemorative glasses, and if they don't finish their drinks, they might take them away, or indeed just pop in, enjoy a bit of the atmosphere, have a drink, and then carry on where they're going.
Okay.
This is just to cover that eventuality.
Après Kingston sounds like an emphasis on the end of the day. So do you know is it planned to ramp things up and try and attract more people, or what's the plan?
I don't have specific timings as to programming, because we are a considerable way out, but I think it's really a reference to the winter nature, and as you say, Après does carry connotations of things happening later in the day, but that would be entirely in common and in keeping with all Christmas markets, which tend to be busier in the evening, with people congregating after work or after shopping and enjoying the nighttime atmosphere and being out in the cold winter nights.
Councillor Sillett.
I believe there are other licenses for the church and even on the lawns. Do you anticipate any other events going on those lawns, or will you be the only person staging an event on those lawns at those times?
My understanding is we're the only people at those times. I don't know. I don't think the other license is in existence anymore.
There's 4 other licenses still in existence.
There are 4. So I don't know how the operation of those licenses would be.
But presumably you would be taking over the whole of that lawn. There wouldn't be much space for anybody else.
I think that's fair to say. There'll be
You have an exclusive contract
of production and commercial stalls going in, which would significantly fetter the ability for any other activities to be taking place.
Thank you. So if we've got this right, you're looking for a license for music, films, live and recorded music, alcohol from November to January, but we're just a bit vague about what it's going to be. A Christmassy, markety thing with alcohol, music, films going on, and it just all sounds a bit vague and not concrete at this stage. But I suppose you could say that's natural, but I'd quite like to know a bit more of what we're actually licensing today.
I mean, I'm not sure how further I can go. It's a Christmas. It's styled as a Christmas event. It is not simply a Christmas market, but that is the starting point. And it has maybe an enhanced element of entertainment above and beyond the pure commercial shopping and gift buying activities in a usual Christmas market, just designed to give people a place to come together and congregate and enjoy the festive period. But we are 6 months out of it starting, so detailed programming is not available yet, and this is quite properly, I would suggest, an application to just secure the permissions well in advance of the event, so as to allow proper planning to increase as the date approaches.
Councillor Vering, do you have a question?
Yeah. Hi Brendan. How time sensitive is this application, given we're this far out? I'm finding it very difficult to sort of understand this, because I think it's really important for us to have as much detail as possible about what the events are, because that will sort of give us an indication of the kind of members of the public, or demographic, whatever, that will be attending it. And without that information, I'm going to struggle a little bit, I'll be honest.
Well, I think there's 2 points there. I think first and foremost, to answer your first question, how time sensitive this is. I mean, we're obviously we're a long way out. So as we sit right now, we're not particularly time sensitive. As to who's going to be attending, this is for everyone. Everyone in Kingston, local residents, local businesses, local workers, to attend as anyone would a Christmas event which happens across the country, and the organisers and the supporters of the local business, local bid, want this to be an event where everyone can engage with, and that means there will be provision of music and entertainment, along with the traditional shopping and alcohol sales as happens across the country.
Councillor Sillett.
You mentioned that you run similar events in Bournemouth and Cambridge. Would they be good examples of the sort of thing that is being envisaged in Kingston?
Yes, it would. I don't have a. I'm just going to amplify what I just said. I don't have a detailed programming schedule for this, but I can certainly tell you that as a resident of Bournemouth and a worker in the town, frequently we will go down to the Christmas market for some drinks with colleagues in one of the bars that the event has on. It's a chance to catch up, maybe do some shopping in town afterwards, and look at the stalls. And certainly I always enjoy going to events. The music and entertainment is something that really does draw and engage people in, and we attend, whereas otherwise we may not, because it just gives you a little bit more.
So to give Councillor Waring perhaps a picture, it's a Christmas market with a bit of live music, some film showing for a broad cross section of the public that would be typically visiting a Christmas market to shop. Would that be a good description?
Yeah, absolutely, and to encourage people who might otherwise not go if it was simply just a commercial shopping styled market.
Thank you. Guy Bishop.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the plan, and it seems to suggest that it's going to be all open. Can't see any tent as such. You've got a bar, which is the pink bar. You've then got the food units, which is 3 of them. Got toilet facilities, and you've got a curling lane bar and seats. Don't know whether that's in a tent or not. I mean, it looks to me, looking at the plan, that it could be all outside. Is that the case?
Well, yes, it is outside because it's in the garden.
Sorry, when I say outside, I mean open air, as opposed to with people walking within a tent that's then got the entertainment, music, drinks on inside it.
Well, there is going to be a cover. The live music will be taking place in a covered area within that area. That's my instruction.
But you see our problem, that we're still not really quite sure what we're licensing. Without a tent on the map, it's really quite tricky.
I accept that to a point. I think the real issue is we have an application where there are no concerns from the responsible authorities, and what the committee needs to do today is really look at the representation received from the public and work and establish and decide whether the concerns raised in there are likely to offend the various licensing objectives. I think it's clear from the way that the representation has been written that actual no real thought has done with this, and the real concern as to noise escaping the premises and causing a disturbance to local people is likely to happen in the summer months when people have their windows open. But of course, this is happening in the peak of midwinter, so I'd suggest that's not a legitimate concern. In terms of the noise generated by the event itself, we've been quite clear that the recorded music is at background level only. Will be monitored by a professional sound team. The local environmental health team will be given full access as required to the sound desk to inspect levels to ensure that any music is played at a responsible level which won't cause nuisance to any neighbouring properties and local people, and where there will be slightly louder live music, this will be taking inside a structure which will contain the noise to an extent, and even then we still have the additional controls of speaker orientation, sound desk monitoring, and the overall sound output. So my view is that the precise nature of the programming and what's happening is of secondary importance here. What we are really looking at is the consequences and the impacts of the activities taking place on local people, and how that impacts upon the licensing objectives and the specifications of what is planned, which will be gone into much more detail in the MP, mean that the risk of a public nuisance taking place is minimal.
Councillor Waring.
Yeah, so sorry, Brendan, I hear you, but I'm not comfortable being told by an applicant whether our concerns sort of are legitimate or not. It's the paucity of information that's the issue here. Given that this isn't a time-sensitive application, would you be comfortable for a deferral of this to a future meeting of the licensing subcommittee with either more details that you've been filled in on, or for someone from the applicant side to be present to give us the information that we need, irrespective of whether there have been objections from the formal organisations? Our job is to be sort of as thorough as possible. So we can't have legitimate concerns or illegitimate concerns about something we don't have the information about. So yeah, skipping back, would you be comfortable with a, even a short-term deferral to get more information on this application?
I don't feel a short-term deferral is the best way to go. I can see your frustration at my point there, but let me explain why I say that. I think the specific concerns you are referring are really to the detail of an operation of the event, which is more properly dealt with by a safety advisory group. We could build in provisions where, if the safety advisory group made up of the responsible authorities whom the committee should be guided by, are not happy with the construction and sign off the detailed proposals which will then be available, that would be a more usual approach to the specific operational details of an event.
Okay, I can still. Councillor Waring is still not happy with that. I think it's just that in the past, just to explain, people come to us with a fairly concrete-ish idea of what they want to run, where they want to do it, how they're going to do it. And, you're telling us there's going to be a building, there's no tent on the map. We know what happens there in the past. And I'm assuming it's going to be something similar, a great big marquee with Christmas stores and music going on. Doesn't upset anyone. But I think we're just a bit hesitant to grant something when we have so little real genuine information about it.
So just so I'm understanding your position, you would be more comfortable if you could see, in effect, a more detailed plan of how everything would be laid out, what structures are going to be on the site, and how they're laid out.
Yeah, that would be more usual procedure in my experience anyway, just from what we've done in the past. I mean, things like films, I can't get my head around how a film would work in a Christmas market unless you're charging money or you're using it as a babysitting service or something. I just have no clue really. And I just think we just need a bit more absolute concrete examples and ideas of what's going to happen. And a slight delay, just while you come back to us with that information, might be helpful. It's a bit chicken and egg. I agree with that. You want your license before you make your concrete decisions. But I just think we need to know more.
I mean, obviously the worry there, and the committee thinking that way, is to avoid a refusal and having to do a new application.
I accept that, but I think it. Councillor Davis, I take your chicken and egg point. But I mean, when I would usually expect when dealing with events that the committee, should it even be engaged as it is here, needs to satisfy itself that the licensing objectives themselves are not going to be offended. the issue on the nuisance point, so on the noise, is there going to be sufficient noise escaping from the premises due to the playing of music, so as to cause a public nuisance? The physical orientation and the layout of the site is not going to have a significant impact of that. The operational production of the volume that the music is played at, how it is monitored, how the speakers, it's been confirmed that speakers will be arrayed in such a way as to minimize against that, and the noise escaping will be within certain levels. That should address your concerns as to a public nuisance being caused. So I would ask you to grant the application as is, trust in the safety advisory group process, but I quite accept, and taking Mr. Bishop's point, it would of course be my preference, if you're minded to not, or if you're minded to refuse in the absence of the layout, it would of course be my preference that we come back another day and provide you with the details you've been sought, you've sought from me, rather than to have a refusal and for us to go through this process all over again. But I am of the view that your concerns should be on the consequence, which I think we've quite clearly sort of laid out, that there won't be a public nuisance from the noise created by the event.
Right, more questions. Guy Bishop first.
Well, I was just going to try and help in a way. I mean, the plan as provided would suggest that it's going to be all outside. Okay. In the past, there has been a giant white tent through which everybody walked and they got their drinks and so on. If it's all outside, which is what the plan we've got here seems to suggest, it'd be a very different consequence in terms of public nuisance than what's happened in the past. So I can understand why the committee might be thinking that way. That's my suggestion to you, Mr. Herbert.
Excuse me, I'm just zooming in on the plan.
Yeah, I mean I don't think you're assisted by it. Let's put it that way. It's been cobbled together by the looks of it. And
I will concede it's not the finest plan of an event layout I have come across in my years.
So the suggestion, I think you're saying, come back with a clearer plan and a picture of a marquee, even if it's not the actual one that's going to be used. Is that what you're suggesting, Mr. Bishop?
I think that might help. I don't know, Mr. Herbert. Do you think that might be a good option?
Well, if the committee thinks it will help them, then I'm inclined to go along with it. But my firm view is that the precise layout and the structures within the site are not going to make any difference to the sound escaping from the site and how that impacts local residents, and that is the key issue that the committee has to decide. Is the operation of this event going to cause a public nuisance by the sound escaping? The details I've given in relation to how sound will be managed and what levels it will play at, that is the key determining factor in the escape of sound, and therefore the ability to cause public nuisance on the site. The environmental health officer is happy that it is not going to cause a nuisance because those concerns have been successfully mediated. As per the statutory guidance, the committee should be primarily guided by the view of the responsible authority in this regard. However, I like to approach these as collaborative exercises, and if the committee would, despite my suggestions, feel it would prefer to come back another day once it has details of the structures. That is, of course, preferable to a rejection of the application. But I must make clear my firm view that the structural layout of the site is secondary to the actual sound management in terms of how it impacts on public nuisance.
As well as sound, of course, we've also got the alcohol issue. And on the plan as it stands, there's an open bar sitting in the middle of a field. It's just too exposed. I mean,
Right next,
that's going to have to be indoors, isn't it? I mean, I would just assume from the safety point of view of the staff and everybody else, it would have to be indoors.
Well, and protecting against inclement weather. By I don't have details of the structure, but I have never seen one of these where there is not an external where there is an external area where people are simply standing outside. The alcohol would be served within a structure.
I mean, you know, a pink blob on a plan, it's not brilliant. The other thing to say, maybe you can ask for this, is obviously there are white areas within the brown line around the other side of the church. We don't know what they're going to be used for either, on the left-hand side of the plan as you look at it.
So you've lost me, forgive me.
So you, on one side, which is the John Lewis side, to make it easy, you've got the area where the bar, the three food stalls, toilets, and the square. I'm assuming that's going to be a tent. Yeah. It's unclear what it is. It's just a line at the moment. On the opposite side of the church, you've got two other areas which are within the brown line. Again, it's unclear what those are going to be used for as well. Are those going to be outside areas?
No, I see on the opposite side of the church. Yes,
and they're all within what is defined as boundary. Is that a licensing boundary, or is it just a boundary of the site? Or, you know, and are those areas going to be used for stalls? Are they going to be used for other bars?
Well, I think
is the bar going to be one where it's in a tent and you have a bar one side of it and you can stand around or what?
Well, this plan shows that there is no regulated activity, licensable activity taking place within those areas. That is limited to the coloured area.
It's unclear whether there is going to be licensable activity inside the brown line. It's just unclear. The brown line is not differentiated for the area where you propose the bar and the three food stalls. Again, we're not sure whether the food stalls will be simply providing food to people, or whether they're tents in which people can actually eat food and sit, or how it's going to operate.
Well, I'm afraid I don't take the point there.
The point is it's unclear.
I understand you're saying it's unclear. My point is that the areas for regulated activity and sale of alcohol are clearly marked. So that just forms part of the license area as a whole. But I again come back to my point.
It's a different. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I don't like to do that. It's not my role here.
Okay.
But there is a difference for the committee to consider an application where it's all open, as opposed to where it's contained or in a tent. And again, we're not clear on whether that's the case or not. Sorry, Councillor Sillett, go ahead.
I hope this will be helpful. I do take your point on the music, which was certainly my major concern. I just think what we're lacking is painting a picture of, we're not looking at exactly which specific area is being used specifically for what, but just painting a picture. Now, I've looked online at the Cambridge Christmas market and the Bournemouth Christmas market, and I'm getting an idea from that. But I mean, the Cambridge Christmas market, I believe, has a big, wheel lit up. This is a much smaller area, so I can't imagine it's going to be there. And you use the après name for the terrace, so I'm getting a picture, but I'm kind of forming that myself from going online and looking at other events run it would possibly be helpful to have just a clearer picture, because this is right in the middle of our town centre, and we're relicensing it for 3 months every day. I think just for diligence, we just want to get a better idea of what's going on, basically.
I 100% appreciate and understand that comment, but for the the representation that has been made by the representative, who has failed to engage with any subsequent correspondence with the local authority, the responsible authority, and my client, we would not even be here today, because this application would be deemed to have been accepted. The role of the committee is to ensure that the licensing objectives are upheld. We need to consider today the licensing objectives of public nuisance and the prevention of crime and disorder. We're very much focusing on the public nuisance element, given the music. At the risk of repeating myself, whilst I understand your desire to understand the physical layout of the event, what we need to consider today is, will a public nuisance be caused? The layout of the event will not impact on that to any significant degree. It is all about how the music is programmed and monitored, and the noise levels that it comes out at. I've set out to you the applicant's intention of how that will be implemented and monitored, and that will and how that will satisfy in our submission the licensing objective of not causing a public nuisance. I think we're starting to go around in circles. I think we just need to cut to the chase of, do you think this event is going to cause a public nuisance, or fall foul of the prevention of crime? The police are happy, the environmental health are happy. In my submission, looking at the details of the structures is not for today, it's for the SAG. But as I say, if the committee would prefer,
I'm going to interrupt you because there's another question coming, and we have more questions. So we're just going to, because we are going around in circles. But Ollie Varing, please have your question.
Thank you, Chair. No, it wasn't a question, it was more a comment. As you yourself had said, Brendan, we're going around in circles and you'll start to repeat yourself. I'm not sure we're getting anywhere further on this at this point.
I think you're right, and I think what we sound like we're asking you to do is to come back, just have another meeting with a plan. Where's the licensable area? What is this structure going to be? And just more information, because I think we just, without even having our meeting after this, it looks like we cannot make a decision based on a vague drawing with a brown boundary around it, which could mean anything.
You would like a detailed plan with the precise layout of setting out all structures, areas within the footprint of the site, which clearly delineate what activity is taking place within each structure.
If you look at the normal plans that people normally submit to these meetings, you might have a restaurant with a storage area at the back and then a licensable area at the front and outside, and how far outside. I mean, I'm very concerned about having at the moment, it's a bar outside, people walking past, suddenly fancying a drink. There's all sorts of preventions of harms that are suddenly flagged up by that, and that's what they've put in at the moment. So I think we need to know what we're talking about, and it's just too vague.
I mean, the other thing I would say, Councillor Davis, if it assists, again, is looking at the Bournemouth Christmas market that Saventa put on. Obviously, you've got the Christmas tree wonderland, the Alpine Lodge, the Christmas market. There's a lot of different things that go into it. All of which look great. It all looks great in terms of Bournemouth and Cambridge. It's just, it needs to be clear what's proposed exactly here. That's all. You've got an ice rink, you've got Christmas events, you've got local attractions and so on. So
yeah, I just
think more details would help. Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm just saying we just need more, exactly what Mr. Bishop has just said. We just need more information. What are you going to do? And where exactly, because suddenly we've got the whole church area involved, which I hadn't spotted. and just bring us a shaded map. It doesn't have to be detailed. You know, we don't have to know where you're getting your marquee from or what exactly it's going to be, but just that there is going to be a marquee and its walls are going to be roughly this thick and it's going to contain this much noise, and the alcohol is going to be contained behind a safe storage place. I mean, it's just too vague. I'm sorry.
That is fine. I was just seeing if any of those concerns can be picked up and dealt with within the alcohol management plan.
I mean, you can defer most things to either the event management plan or a noise management plan, but I think the actual layout, the licensing plans are somewhat distinct and rather important in this situation.
And I suggest we move through the rest of the meeting then. The responsible authorities, and Councillor Davies, you're muted.
Well, I think
Thank you.
if a short adjournment of say a week or something like that,
Or
for the
we
purposes of this clarification, just simply to get a proper plan in, literally it would be a matter of just explaining it in a little bit more detail what is proposed properly, with a plan that makes sense in terms of, you know, not blobs and stuff, and that would be it, because you've obviously presented, you know, 99%, 90% of your application is just that 10% that needs to be properly clarified. I mean, is there going to be a wheel? We don't know. Is there going to be jumping frames like there normally have been in the past? Maybe, maybe not. But we need to know a bit more.
I'm actually on holiday next week, so I wonder if we could say 2 or 3 weeks to give me sufficient time to liaise with the applicant, get the drawings prepared, and then submitted to yourselves. I don't know whether you would require the committee to be convened again. It may be the case that the plan gives you sufficient clarity and you're happy to deal with it on paper once you've seen the detailed plan. Just being mindful to keep people's calendars as clear as possible.
I can address that with the committee if need be, but we'll relay to you our thoughts on that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So moving through the rest of the meeting, responsible authorities, as set out in the report, the representations received from responsible authorities were withdrawn following mediation, and other persons, as set out in the report, 1 valid representation was received. They are not in attendance, but the licensing committee has clearly considered their written submission. And closing statements. Mr. Herbert, I'm not sure if you want to make any closing.
So I would, sorry, Councillor, I'm going to step in. I'm going to say to you that you would do your closing statements at the end of the next meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes much more sense because there's not really much you can say now, I think.
And then you can clarify and sort out whatever you need to sort out.
So thank you to everyone for attending. The subcommittee I think we will have a short meeting after this anyway, and there's no decision to be made, so nothing to be confirmed. Mr. Herbert, we may or may not see you at the reconvened meeting in the future, or it may be dealt with on paper. That will be something that we will let you know as soon as possible. So I'm just going to ask the subcommittee and Alice and Guy to reconvene in a new meeting room. And thank you to Hannah and Mr. Herbert for coming this morning. Thank you.
For Mr. Herbert's benefit, that meeting is effectively to agree the adjournment or postponement, I think is the best word. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
No legal advice, no decision yet.
No decision. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.